Welcome to another update to my 3D printer build. Since the last video, the first thing that I did was install the Y-axis, and I actually plan to use two of these extruded pieces, but it seems like one is just fine considering how tough the V-slot stuff is. So I printed these brackets right here in order to help line up the extrusion for the Y-axis. And then I spaced them from the frame. I measured this distance and made sure that it was the same for each one, and it seems to be pretty straight and really solid. So it's all working pretty well. I also, as you can see, installed belt clips that I 3D printed for both the X and the Y axis. I put the belt on and the motors. As you can see, here's the motor. The other motor is over there. And here's the pulley for the Y-axis. I actually had to move over the Z-axis lead screw, as you can see, in order to make room for the X-axis motor. And on top of that, I also got the electronics up and running so that I could properly test the motors without having to rig up that ramps board and mess about with that. So right here we have a Raspberry Pi Zero, which might not be strong enough, but so far it's working just fine. Of course, here's a USB hub for the Raspberry Pi, and we have the AZ-SMZ board, which is a Chinese smoothie board knockoff type of thing. It runs SmoothieWare, and it seems to be working pretty well. It has removable drivers, which is nice. Right now I have the Allegro drivers in, and for the Z-axis I have a DRV driver. I think they're the 8825s, and that's because the Z-axis was too heavy for the Allegro drivers. It didn't have enough torque. So I might end up switching to those if the Trinamics don't have enough torque, which is what I want to use in the end. I also have these fans here, and I extended the cables from all of the motors. And I'm going to get better connectors for this. It's pretty crappy right now. It's just what I happen to have laying around. But eventually, they're going to be these JST connectors, which are pretty nice. Right here we have the 24-volt power supply, and there's a 5-volt power supply in this little box right here. And we also have a webcam attached to the Raspberry Pi. So that's pretty neat. It's nice to see your print as well and have all the great features of Octoprint. So we also have this little guy right here. It's one of those connectors that you typically see in PC power supplies. So it's nice to be able to unplug it and have it all as one single unit rather than a whole bunch of electronic stuff just plugged in together like my other printer. So I'm going to show you the actual movement and also the Octoprint interface for this printer. So I have it set up right now, as you can see. I called it 3D Prints because of the pun, and also the musician is great too. You can see the camera feed right there. It's a pretty decent webcam, which I'm happy about. So let me actually set this to 100 millimeters. And you'll get to see what the axes look like when they're moving. So here's the X-axis. It goes pretty fast, pretty snappy, and it's a lot quieter than my other printer too. I can't say how performance is yet with the 400 steps per millimeter motor, but it's pretty good so far, and it seems really smooth and solid. Ooh, looks like we're having some problems there. No. I don't think the Allegro drivers have enough torque for this, honestly. It might also be because of the 400 steps per millimeter. I'm guessing you might need more current since the steps are smaller. And I don't know if you can hear that sound, but that sound right there is actually the Z-axis because the DRV drivers are really noisy. So hopefully the Trinamic drivers are good, because that noise is really annoying. Sometimes it goes, which is, pretty weird. But you can see it's moving up. Now I'll move it back down. It's a bit noisy too. the actual mechanics, and I think it's because I'm going to need to print something a little bit better than this. This is a bit warped because of the bed. So I'm probably going to print something that's on its side so that you don't get warp from the actual build surface, and I'll have it somewhat adjustable so that you know, this isn't at a weird angle, the nut, and also it's not positioned improperly. So, you know, I'll modify that. That's one of the next steps. The other next steps would be to get better drivers, I think. And then on top of that, just clean up the wiring. I'm going to use JST connectors for the motor, and also these big beefier connectors for the bed. These connectors, which seem pretty nice. And, you know, I'm going to put in the bed, the heated bed, and then eventually when I get an extruder from E3D, I might put that in. I ordered the Light 6 as well as a Titan extruder, although I do have an extruder and an E3D V6, but the problem is I've never gotten the V6 to work that well, and I kind of wanted to wait for the Light 6, but it seems like E3D is having problems right now, so I might not be able to wait. It might take a long time to get my order through. But overall, that's about it for now. I will have another update when I've cleaned up the wiring and the bed, and then from there on, after that update, I should be able to do the first print and record that, so that should be exciting. Thanks for watching my 3D printer journey, and I'll see you in the next update.